welcome to Live Interactive English. Hello, everyone. I'm Mike.
And I'm Sam.
And I'm excited to go to Little Liuqiu, Sam.
Oh.
I'm very inspired by the article that we're reading. I think the author really got me describing those fish and the snorkeling and all that kind of stuff. And you know what a fan I am of fresh seafood. So I had the idea I could go down there, catch my own fish, take it to a local restaurant, and have the most delicious dinner of all. And I'm hoping, and you can join me, there you go, that's for you. I'm hoping to catch myself, I don't know, a tuna, or maybe a marlin, a swordfish, you know, something really meaty and delicious. I think that would be great. I'm gonna go swimming and snorkeling on the reefs and catch my dinner.
And your plan is to catch it with this?
Yeah, it's a fishing net, like the fishermen use.
It's a fishing net for like minnows.
What do you mean minnows? I can't eat a minnow. I never see a minnow on a sushi restaurant menu. I don't know how to say minnow in Japanese. I know how to say chutoro, which is tuna fish.
Yes, but do you know the size of a tuna fish? Because a tuna fish...
Well, they fit in a can, right? There's tuna fish. I've had canned tuna. It's about that big, so I imagine they're... Yeah, maybe this big.
You can maybe fit
catch two at once.
The tuna's nose in here.
Tuna's nose?
Yeah,
this is tuna's nose.
Tuna are like, 1,000-pound fish. You know that, right?
How do they get them in the can?
Lots and lots of cutting. Lots of cutting.
Oh, really?
This is only going to catch us maybe a couple teeny tiny fish, and then we'll still be hungry.
We can't eat that for dinner.
No, this is better for catching butterflies, I think.
Butterflies?
Yeah.
I've never had butterfly sushi. That sounds terrible. There's no meat on a butterfly.
Yes, there isn't. So
I don't even know if there's butterflies on Liuqiu.
I don't know that either.
I could go fishing in Alishan, I guess, and catch a butterfly for a very disappointing dinner.
Yeah.
All right, I'll think about my plan. Let's read the article. The next morning, we met a guide at Dutsaping, one of Little Liuqiu's protected coastal areas. The guide taught us so much about local animals and plants living both under the water and on the land. It was a truly eye-opening experience, and my wife and I loved seeing the sea anemones. Afterward, we rode to a popular spot called Beauty Cave. There, we saw lots of amazing old coral, which the whole island is made of. There weren't many people around, as it was still early, so we basically had the run of the place. All right, so we're gonna go to Liuqiu. We're still there, actually, and today we're gonna be seeing other parts of the island and not catching tuna with really tiny nets.
No.
That's definitely not what we will be doing. I learned that just now. Thank you, Sam.
Yes, that would have been quite an impossible task. But we do get to see more because we are on day 2 of our 2 great days on Little Liuqiu.
Okay.
So if we go to our article, it says, the next morning, we met a guide at Dutsaping, one of Little Liuqiu's protected coastal areas. Now, you hear this word, protected coastal area, and that tells us that there must be many areas on this island that are kind of like set under the government to say you can't really do anything here except enjoy the natural beauty of the area. That probably means no fishing, that probably means no leaving trash, no camping, no fires, all this kinds of stuff to protect the natural habitat and the natural beauty of that area, which is great because then you can enjoy it for a long time.
Exactly right. There are laws set up there to keep the environment as natural as possible, and there is no tuna fish fishing with nets or anything like that. Leave the animals alone, but learn about them. The guide taught us so much about local animals and plants living both under the water and on the land. Of course, when we talk about a coastal area, we're talking about an area where the land and the ocean or the sea, they meet. And so we're learning about things on the land and things in the water, both of which are wonderful and both of which, or all of which, are protected in this lovely coastal area.
Yes, and so the best part about this is they got to go with a local guide, which means that this person will have plenty of information and good stories and all that kind of stuff of everything living there since they live there, they're knowledgeable about these topics. And so as a tourist, it's great. And the couple says, it was a truly eye-opening experience, and my wife and I loved seeing the sea anemones. Sea anemones. Yes, those are quite cool to see, but you have to be a little bit careful not to accidentally step on them.
That's true. It's a hard word to say and an animal or creature to maybe avoid, as you said, certain anemones, it is a hard word to say, can sting you, right? That's often what they say, well, going to a reef, don't put your feet on the reef. The anemones can sting you, and of course it can damage the reef as well. So we're going to be learning about those, and I'm sure the guide would show them which ones might, give you a rash or a sting or something like that, like a fire anemone. Avoid those. Afterward, it said, we rode to a popular spot called Beauty Cave. Ooh, that sounds nice. I guess they got on their scooters and they headed down the coastal road to another wonderful area of Little Liuqiu. Beauty Cave is the name of this place. Not sure why, but that sounds like definitely a place I would want to explore. There, we saw lots of amazing old coral, which the whole island is made of. Wow, so that is going back thousands or even millions of years. Old coral that has sort of built up over time and become land. Because of course, coral are living creatures, but once they die, they leave their sort of shell, their home, which is very hard and can almost be like rock. So that's a pretty cool thing to learn about Liuqiu. You're walking on old coral. They did this afterward. When we use the adverb afterward, it means after another event or situation that happened earlier. Often when you're telling a story, you're telling it in the time that it happened, right? First this and then this. And then if you want to say after this, you can say after or afterward. So that's telling us that the next thing came second, whereas the first thing, of course, was the earlier or the first one. Here's a good example. John went to a clothing store and bought a new pair of jeans. Afterward, he had some lunch at a local cafe. So that's the second thing he did after buying his jeans.
Yes, and then we also had this word cave, and a cave is just kind of a dugout or a cutout into maybe a mountain or a hill or anything like that. Usually it's not man-made. I guess there could be some that are man-made, but usually these caves are built from water passing through them or old rivers, old lakes from millions of years ago that kept kind of cutting away at the mountain, and they made a hole that goes deep into the mountain. And sometimes they can be very complicated cave systems that go very deep into the mountains, and sometimes they're just one little cave or one giant cave with no more kind of places to go inside of it. And they're very fun to look at and explore, but can obviously be very dangerous if you don't know where you're going or what's in the cave. But our example sentence says, bears are known to live in these caves, so be careful. Or maybe just don't go there at all, because nobody wants to meet a bear in a cave.
That is very good advice.
That sounds terrible. Anyway, back to our article, it says, there weren't many people around as it was still early. This is again at that beauty cave, so luckily they got there when there weren't so many people, so they could actually enjoy it. And it says, so we basically had the run of the place. Having the run of the place just kind of means you're the only ones there, so you can go wherever you want, do whatever you want, and not bother anybody else. So you have the run of the place. The whole place is to yourself.
Sounds wonderful, although if a bear attacks, you
Yeah,
might
no.
not want to be alone. But hopefully there are I don't think there are bears on Little Liuqiu.
I don't think so.
And we hope that will continue for the near future at least. All right, let's take a quick break, and then we'll be back for the rest of our second day on this beautiful little island.
Hello， 大家好，我是 Hanny。我们今天要继续跟着作者游览小琉球。他提到，隔天早上他们在小琉球其中一个沿海保护区肚子坪来跟导游会合。导游介绍了很多生活在当地水下和陆地上动植物的知识。那么之后，他们又骑车到美人洞，在那边看到许多令人惊叹的古老珊瑚。那由于时间还早，周围没有很多人，所以他们可以自由地探索那个地方。好，单字 afterward 这个副词表示之后、后来，那有时候也会在后面加上一个 s， 拼作 afterwards 这样子。好，那么 cave cave 它就表示洞穴或是山洞。这边有一个重点，我们进入文法时间。我们来看这个重点是 the run of something， 表示出入某地的自由，使用什么什么的自由。run 在这边是当名词，意思是指在某地行动或出入的权利自由，常常用 the run of 加名词来表达对某个地方或某事物自由使用或支配权。举例来说 ，They stayed at the hotel during the off season.And they had the run of the pool for the entire day. 他们在淡季期间住饭店，一整天都可以自己独享游泳池。好，那这回到课文中。
In the afternoon, we visited Black Devil Cave. Legend has it that black slaves found shelter in the cave after being separated from their Dutch masters and were later killed by British sailors.However, this story is probably untrue. In reality, many indigenous people were murdered by the Dutch there in the 17th century. This is a sad story, but I always think it's important to learn about local history. At the end of the day, it was time to head back to the main island of Taiwan. With so much to see and do on Little Liuqiu, though, I am now planning a second visit.All right, so we spent the morning viewing some of the wonderful things that you can see, the natural things that you can see on Little Liuqiu. Remember, we're walking around on a coral island. There are great caves there, along with coral reefs and wonderful animals all over the place. But we should never forget that there are people on Xiao Liuqiu or Little Liuqiu, and it has actually quite a long history with some pretty interesting and actually even terrible things that happened in the past. So let's learn about that. It says, in the afternoon, we visited Black Devil Cave. Wow, so the morning was Beauty Cave, and then we had lunch, and things got dark, and now we're at Black Devil Cave. When I say it's dark, not because storm clouds are coming in, because the story and the history of Xiao Liuqiu or Little Liuqiu is not just, coral fish and lovely caves. There are some bad things actually happened there.
Yes, this is maybe one of those caves that you hear the name and you're like, no thanks.
Yeah, Black Devil Cave, no.
Beauty Cave? Cool. But it is, kind of a still scenic point on the island, and it has some history that can be important to know. And so first we start off with a legend. So it says, legend has it that black slaves found shelter in the cave after being separated from their Dutch masters and were later killed by British sailors.
Whoa.
So yes, we see the history of this a long time ago. Taiwan was occupied by the Dutch, and it sounds like they brought some of their slaves to the island. And so the legend goes, and again, we have this word legend. So it's kind of like a story from the past that may or may not be true, but it doesn't sound very good regardless. And what we do know is there were really slaves brought by the Dutch from all over the place, really. And so this word slave is an important word to know. And a slave is a person who is forced to work and usually taken from their home country and separated from everything and then brought with the kind of captors. In this case, we have the Dutch who bring them around and they work for them, and that's basically their whole life is turned into forced labor or forced working in not so good conditions. And our example sentence says, the slaves were forced to work in the fields for the rest of their lives. And unfortunately, that's usually what happened. Again, they were captured from a place, brought to another place to be forced to work.
Yeah, they're basically people who are owned by other people the way farmers own animals on their farm, and they can do whatever they want to these people. The slaves have no freedom, no rights, they can't get away, and there was a lot of violence involved in slavery. That's the whole organization of people buying, trading, and owning slaves. But sometimes the slaves could escape from their farm, from the master, from wherever they were, and they might look for shelter in a place where hopefully they can be free or get away. Shelter is basically a protected, safe place from dangers and other things that are around you. It could be something simple like hiding under a tree when it starts to rain. You're getting shelter from the rain. Of course, if there's a lightning storm, don't take shelter under a tree. You should find shelter in another place. Your home is your personal shelter, but maybe when you travel, you could think of your hotel room as your shelter. If there's an earthquake or something suddenly happens and you're outside away from your home, you would want to find a safe, protected place so that if things start falling, they don't hit you, hurt you, or kill you. A shelter should keep you safe from danger. For example, we all ran for shelter when the storm began. Maybe inside, maybe under a tree, maybe into a tent or something like that, but get away from the rain. All right, so there's a story about Black Devil Cave. These slaves got away, and then eventually they were killed by the British. Although, as we go on in the article, we learn that, as Sam said, maybe this is more legend than true history, because the article says, however, this story, the one we just heard, is probably untrue. It's not true, it's not real history, it's legend, it's myth, it's just a story. So what is the truth? Well, next it says, in reality, many indigenous people were murdered by the Dutch there in the 17th century. So people were killed there, but it wasn't slaves killed by the British. It was indigenous people or native people to Taiwan, Aboriginal people to Taiwan, and they were murdered by the Dutch, not by the British, but by the Dutch. It's hard to know, of course, because Taiwan was not a place that was really explored too much at this time. That's 500 years ago, so a lot of the history is still not entirely 100% accurate and true, but that's the best that we know. But either way, people were killed there illegally.
Yes, and so regardless of the story, it sounds like it does still have a very dark or not so nice history behind it. And so we have this word murder, and murder is the verb when somebody kills another person. And it is a little different because we do kind of separate this into different words if it was accidental or with your car or something like that. Those have different words, but murder is just you killed somebody, you wanted to kill them, and now they're dead. And so that would be that word that we use. And our example sentence says, the man is in prison for murdering 5 people. So terrible person, killed 5 people. Now, luckily, he's in jail and away from everybody else so they can stay safe. Okay, back to our article. It says, this is a sad story, but I always think it's important to learn about local history. That's a very good point. It is important to learn about local history because it also can keep you from doing something that might be seen as disrespectful to the area. If you know that this area is kind of a sadder history, then maybe you don't want to be out there taking, fun selfies and all this kind of stuff, and you want to respect the area a little bit more. So it's good to know about the places that you are exploring.
Absolutely. It gives you more understanding and compassion to people who are different from you because you realize some of the tough things that they've been through and how a lot of those things are common around the world, no matter who we are, what we look like, or anything like that. And it shows respect, as you said. At the end of the day, it was time to head back to the main island of Taiwan. Okay, so back to Baishaowei, back onto the ferry boat, and back to Kaohsiung, back to the main island of Taiwan. That's, of course, where most of us live. Taipei, Taichung, Kaohsiung. This is the main island. With so much to see and do on Little Liuqiu, though, I am now planning a second visit. I mean, they did say that there are beaches dotted around the island, and they only went to, 2 or 3 of them at the most. So that alone is enough to get you back there, and I'm going to catch a tuna. All right, what do you think? No, I'm not. What do you think if you were on Little Liuqiu for an hour, only an hour, what would you do?
Yeah, well, the problem is I don't exactly know how far can I get in an hour. So I think I would spend my time snorkeling because that sounds like I for sure can jump right in the water and get a whole hour snorkeling. Otherwise, if I had longer, probably go see the caves.
Oh, okay. I would visit Beauty Cave and try to become beautiful, if that's possible, but highly unlikely. All right, guys, thanks for joining us. Maybe we'll see you guys wandering around Little Liuqiu this summer. That would be lots of fun. I think I'm going to plan a visit sometime soon. Until then, all the best. Take care if you do go. Bon voyage. And we'll see you back here soon. Bye-bye.
到了下午，作者他们参观了乌鬼洞。传说啊，黑人奴隶在跟荷兰主人分开后，曾经躲在洞穴里面，后来被英国水手杀害了。不过这个故事很可能不是真的。事实上啊，17世纪的时候，许多原住民曾经在那边遭到荷兰人杀害。那这是一个悲伤的故事，但是作者认为了解当地历史是很重要的。那看了几个重要景点之后，这一天就结束了。作者他们要返回台湾本岛了。那最后他提到，由于小琉球有这么多值得看和做的事，他现在已经计划要再次造访了。Sam 老师刚刚在讲到风景景点的时候，用到一个形容词 scenic，scenic， 它表示风景优美的。再看到单字 slave， 它表示奴隶。老师在解释单字时提到 captor，captor 它表示劫持者或是捉拿者。下一个单字 shelter， 它表示掩蔽、庇护或是避难，在这边当名词，那这时候是不可数名词。我们可以用 find shelter 或者是 take shelter 来表达寻求避难、躲避。再看到 murder 这个动词，它表示谋杀或是杀害。那这边有2个重点，我们进入文法时间。我们来看第一个重点是 legend has it that 主词加动词，这表示传说怎么样，据说怎么样。其中的 legend 指的是传说，在这边固定用单数。那么 it 是虚受词，用来代替后面的 that 子句。举例来说， Legend has it that a fierce dragon once lived in the cave. 传说有一只凶猛的龙曾经住在那个洞穴里。好，那另外句型里面的 legend 一样可以用 rumor 或者是 word 代换，它固定也是用单数。例如 Rumor has it that Brandon is dating the boss's daughter. 有谣传啊 ，Brandon 在跟老板的女儿交往。好，那第二个重点是 with 名词逗号主词加动词，这可以表达由于怎么样有了什么什么。with 加名词可以用来表达原因或是条件，去表达由于什么，凭借着什么。像是 with Michael on our team, there's no way we can lose. 有 Michael 在我们这一队，我们不可能会输的啦。好，那以上今天的讲解，同学别走开，马上回来哦。
The next morning, we met a guide at Dutsaping, one of Little Liuqiu's protected coastal areas. The guide taught us so much about local animals and plants, living both under the water and on the land. It was a truly eye-opening experience, and my wife and I loved seeing the sea anemones. Afterward, we rode to a popular spot called Beauty Cave. There, we saw lots of amazing old coral, which the whole island is made of. There weren't many people around, as it was still early, so we basically had the run of the place. In the afternoon, we visited Black Devil Cave. Legend has it that black slaves found shelter in the cave after being separated from their Dutch masters and were later killed by British sailors. However, this story is probably untrue. In reality, many indigenous people were murdered by the Dutch there in the 17th century. This is a sad story, but I always think it's important to learn about local history. At the end of the day, it was time to head back to the main island of Taiwan. With so much to see and do on Little Liuqiu, though, I am now planning a second visit.
If you are someone who loves to see cherry trees bloom in the spring, there is a very special place in Tai'an where I think you should visit. These trees are very interestingly located near Tai'an's police station, of all places. Near Tai'an Police Station and Tai'an Elementary School stand numerous Yaezakura and Yoshino cherry trees. The cherry trees bloom pink in the spring. The beautiful cherry tree forest always excites visitors. If you'd like to avoid the crowd during the day, visiting the cherry blossoms at night is also an option. There is a whole different feeling for visitors who come at night. Walk a bit further up from Tai'an Police Station and you will arrive at another popular destination, a site for viewing bald cypresses. Since 2014, bald cypresses have become a trend in Taiwan. When autumn arrives, their leaves change from yellow to red. During spring, the leaves are a shade of bright emerald green. As the seasons change, the leaves turn yellow, red, brown, and then green again. The ever-changing colors of the bald cypress leaves satisfy visitors in all seasons and make for great photography. Next time you're in Tai'an, make sure to visit the Tai'an Police Station. No, not to get arrested, but to see for yourself just how beautiful the cherry tree forest is.